The breach alarm screamed through the corridors of battlecruiser Eternal Aegis. Dae-hyun was already running before most of the crew understood what was happening. His boots hammered against the metal floor as he pulled his helmet over his head. The powered armor sealed around him with a hiss. 17 hours. That was how long he stood in that breach. The void swarm came through the damaged hull like black water, their bodies twisting in ways that hurt to look at. They had no faces, no eyes, just endless hunger. Behind Dae-hyun, 40,000 civilians from 6 different species huddled in the evacuation zone. The transport ships were coming, but they needed time. Dae-hyun gave them time. His rifle fired until it melted. He switched to his plasma cutter. When that failed, he used his hands. The armor gave him strength, but the will was all his own. Swarm creatures fell in piles around him. Their blood burned through metal. Their screams had no sound. Other soldiers tried to help him. A Vryn warrior with 4 arms lasted 6 minutes before the swarm pulled him down. 2 Kelid defenders in their combat shells held for 20 minutes. Dae-hyun kept fighting. Commander Velthar watched from the bridge. His insect eyes tracked the humans' movements. Impossible, he said. No single being should survive that long. But Dae-hyun was not just surviving. He was winning. When the last transport ship cleared the bay, an entire battle group arrived to support him. They found Dae-hyun still standing in the breach, surrounded by dead swarm. His armor was dented and burned. Green ichor covered every surface. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. But he was standing. The medical team tried to take him to the regeneration pod. Dae-hyun refused. "Save it for someone who needs it," he said. He walked to his quarters on his own. Behind him, he left footprints of swarm blood. The footage spread across the galaxy within hours. Every species in the coalition saw it. A lone human, holding the line when all others fell. The comments were always the same. Humans are incredible, brave beyond measure, the perfect warriors. Jiwoo watched the footage 7 times. He was 19 years old. Fresh from Earth, assigned to the Aegis just last month. He had grown up hearing stories about Dae-hyun. Every human child knew the name. The man who never retreated. The soldier who never broke. "I want to be like him," Jiwoo said to his bunkmate. His bunkmate, a human named Bo-Ram, nodded. 3 days after the battle, the awards ceremony filled the main hall. Dae-hyun stood at attention while Commander Velthar pinned another medal to his chest. It was his 18th decoration. The crowd cheered. Cameras recorded everything. "The coalition is grateful," Velthar said. "Humanity has proven itself time and again. You are the shield that protects us all." Dae-hyun said nothing. He nodded once, then returned to his position. The ceremony continued with speeches about human courage, human strength, human sacrifice. In the back of the hall, Hana watched with a feeling like ice in her stomach. She had not seen Dae-hyun in 3 years. They had been partners once, part of the first human diplomatic mission to the stars. That felt like a lifetime ago. Now she was senior diplomatic officer Hana, and he was legend Dae-hyun. She barely recognized him. The man she remembered had laughed easily. He had loved old music and bad jokes. He had dreams of exploring peaceful worlds, of learning from other species. The man on that stage looked carved from stone. His eyes were distant. His smile was mechanical. After the ceremony, alien officers surrounded Dae-hyun. They patted his shoulders and bought him drinks. Hana listened to their conversation from a nearby table. "Your species is remarkable," said a Felid commander. "No sense of self-preservation. It makes you very useful." "Useful," agreed a Corvan diplomat. "That is the word. Other species must be convinced to risk themselves. Humans volunteer. It is in their nature," said another. "Primitive aggression." Channeled productively. They laughed. Dae-hyun laughed with them. But Hana saw his hands. They shook slightly before he tucked them under the table. She left the hall and went looking for Tae-min. If anyone knew the truth about Dae-hyun, it would be him. They had been friends since basic training. Back on Earth, she found him in Engineering Bay 3, working on a damaged fighter craft. He looked up when she approached, and his expression told her he had been expecting this. "He is not okay," Taemin said before she could ask. "I know. Do you? Do you really?" Taemin set down his tools. He takes stimulants before every mission. 3 different kinds. They suppress fear, block pain, increase aggression. The medical staff knows. They approve it. They call it combat optimization for human personnel. Hana felt sick. How long? 2 years, maybe more. Taemin wiped his hands on a rag. He does not sleep without medication. He has nightmares about everyone he has lost. Do you know how many humans have died following his example? How many? 47. They were inspired by his courage. They volunteered for suicide missions. They thought glory mattered more than living. Taemin's voice cracked. Ji-woo is next. That kid worships Dae-hyun. He has already requested transfer to the assault teams. Hana closed her eyes. This has to stop. How? The coalition needs him. Humanity needs the respect he brings us. And he thinks this is the only way we matter. That night, Hana requested access to military records. Her diplomatic clearance opened doors. What she found turned her ice-cold stomach into burning anger. Human casualties were 4 times higher than any other species in the coalition military. Not because humans were weaker. The reports made that clear. Humans were assigned the most dangerous missions, frontline assaults, rearguard actions, suicide holds. There were intercepted communications too. Coalition strategists discussing tactics. They used phrases like acceptable human losses and expendable forward elements. They calculated human deaths with the same casualness they might discuss ammunition expenditure. One message made her stop breathing. Recommend human units for Operation Darkfall. High casualty probability. But human replacements are readily volunteered. Other species would require significant incentive. They were not heroes to the coalition. They were convenient. Hana found Sun-hee, the human counselor assigned to military division. They met in a private room, and Sun-hee looked like she had not slept in weeks. "You see it too," Sun-hee said. "I see it. I have been filing reports for 8 months. No one listens. They say human courage is an asset. They say we are earning our place in the galaxy." Sun-hee pulled up files on her tablet. "I have 63 human soldiers in my care. 17 have trauma disorders. 24 have substance dependencies. 41 have suicidal ideation. But their performance reviews are excellent, so command ignores my recommendations." "What about Dae-hyun?" Sun-hee was quiet for a long moment. "He refuses counseling. Says he is fine. But I see his medical records. The stimulants are destroying his nervous system. In 5 years, maybe less, the damage will be permanent. He knows this. He does not care." Hana looked at the files, at the statistics, at the truth that everyone ignored, and she knew what she had to do. She went to Dae-hyun's quarters late that night. He answered the door, still in his Under Armour suit. Behind him, she saw the wall. It was covered in names. Hundreds of them. Written in careful handwriting. "Everyone who died," Dae-hyun said quietly, "under my command, or because of my example. I remember them all." 2-3. Hana stepped inside. The door closed behind her, and she prepared to say the words that would change everything. "We need to talk," she said. "About what you have become. About what you are teaching our people. About the cost of proving we belong." Dae-hyun looked at her, and for just a moment, she saw past the legend to the man underneath. He looked tired. So very tired. "I know," he whispered. Hana sat across from Dae-hyun in his small quarters. The wall of names seemed to watch them both. She wanted to start gently, but gentle would not work. Not anymore. Do you remember why we came to the stars? She asked. Daehyun stared at his hands. They were scarred from 100 battles. To join the galactic community. To learn. To explore. Yes. We came as diplomats, scientists, artists. We came to share what made us human. Hana leaned forward. Tell me what happened to that mission. Daehyun was silent for a long time. Then he began to speak. The first human diplomatic ship had arrived at Coalition space 15 years ago. Hana and Daehyun were both on that ship, young and excited. Humanity had finally reached the stars. They were ready to take their place among the great civilizations. But they arrived during a war. The Void Swarm had been ravaging Coalition worlds for decades. Millions died every year. The Coalition species had evolved past physical warfare. They used drones, AI-controlled fighters, automated defense systems. It was clean, efficient, distant. It was also losing. The swarm adapted to every strategy. They learned to corrupt AI systems. They destroyed drones faster than factories could build them. The Coalition needed something the swarm could not predict. Something primitive and unpredictable. They needed soldiers who would fight with their own hands. The first battle happened by accident. A swarm attack hit the station where the human delegation was meeting Coalition leaders. Daehyun and 12 other humans grabbed whatever weapons they could find. They had basic military training from Earth. Nothing special. But they fought. And they won. The Coalition representatives were shocked. They watched humans do something their own people had not done in centuries. Physical combat, close quarters, brutal and direct. You would volunteer for this? Commander Velthar had asked. To fight our war? Daehyun remembered the pride he felt. Humanity could help. They could prove their worth. Yes, he had said. We will fight. That was 15 years ago. Now Hana listened to him describe those years. How the Coalition had welcomed human warriors eagerly. How they praised human courage. How missions came one after another, each more dangerous than the last. I thought we were earning respect, Daehyun said quietly. Every battle we won. Every enemy we defeated. I thought we were showing them we belonged. And what did we earn? Hana asked. Daehyun had no answer. Hana pulled out her tablet. I found something. Communications between Coalition commanders. Do you want to hear them? Ted. He nodded. She read them aloud. Every cold calculation. Every casual dismissal of human life. Every strategic decision that spent human soldiers like ammunition. They call us useful, Hana said. Convenient. Expendable. One commander literally wrote that human casualties are acceptable because new humans volunteer faster than any other species. Daehyun's jaw tightened. They need us. They use us. There is a difference. Hana set down the tablet. And we let them because we are so desperate to prove we matter. We do matter. We save lives. We die in place of others. That is not the same thing. Hana stood and walked to the wall of names. She touched one gently. Hyun Soo. I knew him. He was 21. He died holding a position that Coalition Command already decided to abandon. They did not tell the human units. He died for nothing, thinking he was a hero. Daehyun closed his eyes. Yoonji. Minho. Sungmin. I knew all of them. Hana turned back to him. They died because you taught them that sacrifice equals honor. That dying for the Coalition proves humanity deserves respect. I never said that. You did not have to. You showed them. Hana's voice was hard now. You are the legend. The hero who never breaks. Every young human joins the military, wanting to be like you. And what does being like you mean? It means taking stimulants to suppress your fear. It means volunteering for suicide missions. It means destroying yourself to maintain an image. Daehyun stood abruptly. What choice do I have? If I stop, If I show weakness, they will see all humans as weak. No. They will see us as people. People with limits. People whose lives have value beyond what we can die for. Hana stepped closer. Dae-hyun, you are not protecting humanity. You are teaching the galaxy that we are cheap. Those words hit him like a physical blow. He stumbled back against the wall. Hana pressed on. Ji-woo wrote in his personal log that he hopes to die as gloriously as you. He is 19 years old, and he thinks the highest thing he can achieve is a beautiful death. Because of you. Because you made sacrifice look like the only thing that matters. I just wanted to help. I know. But help has become harm. Hana showed him another file. Sun-hee's reports. The statistics on human soldiers. The trauma. The addiction. The mental collapse hidden behind commendations and medals. Dae-hyun read through them slowly. His face went pale. They are breaking, Hana said softly. Our people are breaking. And they hide it, because you never show your cracks. You are the standard. The impossible standard that is killing them. Dae-hyun sat down heavily. For a long moment, neither spoke. There is more, Hana said. She told him about Operation Last Light, the new mission. The suicide assault that Coalition Command was planning. The mission they specifically requested an all-human ground team for. They want us, because we do not break, she said. But Dae-hyun, we do break. We just break quietly, where no one sees. And then, we die. And they replace us with fresh volunteers, who think glory is worth everything. Dae-hyun looked at the wall of names again. What do I do? If I stop fighting, the coalition loses strength. More people die. Maybe. Or maybe the coalition learns to fight in ways that do not require spending lives so easily. Maybe they develop better strategies, better technology, better tactics. Hana knelt in front of him. But even if the cost is higher for them, that is not our burden to bear. We are not the galaxy's willing sacrifice. They will say we are cowards. Let them. Courage is not the same as expendability. And we do not need to prove our worth by dying. She took his hand. We have worth already. Just by being human. Just by being people. We do not need to earn the right to live. Dae-hyun was quiet for a long time. Hana could see him, thinking, weighing, struggling. I do not know how to be anything else, he finally said. I have been this person for so long. Then learn to be someone new. Show them what else humans can be. Show our people that there is strength in saying no, in choosing life, in demanding respect, instead of earning it through blood. She stood and walked to the door, then turned back. Operation Last Light launches in 3 days. Ji-woo and 60 other humans have already volunteered. They think you will lead them. They think dying beside you is the greatest honor. Hana met his eyes. What will you teach them? Dae-hyun, that their deaths matter more than their lives? Or that they deserve better? She left him alone with the wall of names and the weight of her words. Dae-hyun sat in the darkness for hours. He thought about every battle, every lost friend, every young soldier who followed his example into death. He thought about Ji-woo, eager and brave, and 19 years old. He thought about what Hana said, about being cheap, about teaching the wrong lessons. Around midnight, he stood and walked to his armor. It hung on its rack, scarred and dented, a legend's armor, a symbol that meant something to millions. But what did it mean? Glory? Sacrifice? Or just convenient expendability? Wrapped in honor? Dae-hyun touched the cold metal. For the first time in years, he let himself feel the fear he had been suppressing, the exhaustion, the pain, the brokenness he hid from everyone. He was tired of being a weapon, tired of being a symbol, tired of watching young humans die trying to be like him. Maybe Hana was right. Maybe the greatest courage was not in fighting. Maybe It was in stopping, in saying this far, and no further, in showing everyone that human lives were worth more than the missions they could die for. He looked at the wall of names one more time. All those people. All those lives spent. No more, he whispered to the empty room. The decision settled over him like weight lifting rather than weight added. For the first time, in years, Dae-hyun felt like himself again. In 3 days, Operation Last Light would launch, and Dae-hyun knew exactly what he was going to do. He was going to teach humanity a new lesson, not about how to die bravely, but about how to live with dignity. The deployment bay buzzed with activity. 63 human soldiers prepared for Operation Last Light. They checked weapons, sealed armor, and said quiet goodbyes to friends. The atmosphere was tense but determined. This was it, the big one, the mission everyone would remember. Ji-woo stood with his unit, adjusting his helmet seals for the 3rd time. His hands shook slightly. Not from fear, he told himself. From excitement. He was finally going on a real mission. With Dae-hyun, the legend himself. He will lead us to glory, said Bo-ram, securing his rifle. Or to death, said another soldier, a woman named Young-mi. But she smiled when she said it. Death in service was nothing to fear. They had all learned that. Admiral Thondar stood on the observation platform above the bay. His reptilian eyes surveyed the human forces with satisfaction. Behind him, other coalition officers watched the preparations. Magnificent, said one. They volunteer knowing they will not return. Humans are unique that way. Thondar agreed. Other species require extensive psychological conditioning for suicide missions. Humans simply need a cause they believe in. Efficient, said another officer. Thondar nodded. Very efficient. We lose no important personnel. The humans gain honor. Everyone wins. On the bay floor, Taemin worked on final equipment checks. He moved mechanically, his face blank. He had tried to talk to Ji-woo earlier, tried to explain what this mission really was, but Ji-woo had not listened. He was too excited, too ready to prove himself. Taemin saw Hana enter the bay. She looked pale but determined. She caught his eye and nodded once. She had done what she could. Now, it was up to Dae-hyun. The bay doors opened. Everyone turned. Dae-hyun walked in. But something was wrong. He was not wearing his armor. He wore simple clothes, civilian clothes. No weapons, no gear. Just a man walking into a room full of soldiers. The bay went silent. Dae-hyun? Ji-woo stepped forward. Where is your armor? The mission launches in 20 minutes. Dae-hyun walked to the center of the bay. His footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. He looked at each soldier, meeting their eyes one by one. These were his people. His responsibility. I am not going, he said clearly. Shocked murmurs rippled through the crowd. On the observation platform, Thondar leaned forward. I am not going, Dae-hyun repeated, louder. Ji-woo looked confused. But this is Operation Last Light. They need us. You always said we should answer when the coalition calls. I was wrong. 3 words. Simple and devastating. Dae-hyun turned to address all the soldiers. I have been wrong about many things. I thought we were earning respect. I thought our sacrifice mattered. I thought dying bravely was the highest thing a human could achieve. He paused. I was wrong. About all of it. What are you saying? Young-mi asked. We are heroes. We save lives. We die in place of others. Dae-hyun corrected. That is not the same thing. And the others do not value our sacrifice the way we think they do. He gestured to the observation platform. Ask Admiral Thondar. Ask him about the casualty projections for this mission. Ask him what percentage of us he expects to survive. Thondar's expression hardened. He activated his communicator. This is insubordination. Security to deployment bay. But Dae-hyun kept talking. 0. He expects 0 survivors. This mission is designed to have no survivors. You are not assault forces. You are a distraction, living bait to draw swarm forces while the fleet repositions. The soldiers looked at each other. Some shook their heads in denial. Others looked uncertain. That is how war works, Boram said. Someone has to make the hard sacrifices. Yes, Daehyun agreed. But why is it always us? Why are humans always the ones making the sacrifices? Not alongside other species, not in shared risk, just us. Always us. He pulled out a data pad. I have been researching. Human casualties in the coalition military are 4 times higher than any other species. Not because we are weaker, because we are assigned the most dangerous missions. We volunteer for suicide runs. We hold impossible positions. We die while other species watch from safe distances. Because we are braver, Jiwoo said, but his voice was uncertain now. No. Because we are convenient. Daehyun showed them the data. Coalition Command has communications about us. About how human losses are acceptable. About how we volunteer faster than we die. About how we are useful expendable forces. He looked at Jiwoo directly. You wrote in your log that you hope to die gloriously. Like me. You are 19 years old. You think the best thing you can do is die well. I taught you that. And I am sorry. I am so sorry. Security forces entered the bay, but they stopped when they saw what was happening. This was not a riot. This was something else, Daehyun continued. I thought I was being strong. I thought I was showing the galaxy what humans could do. But all I showed them was that human lives are cheap, that we will throw ourselves away for a little praise, that we are so desperate to belong that we will bleed ourselves dry to earn respect. What else can we do? Youngmi asked. How else do we prove our worth? We do not prove it. We demand it. Daehyun's voice was hard now. We stop accepting missions designed to kill us. We stop volunteering to die. We tell the coalition that if they want our help, they must value our lives the way they value their own people. They will call us cowards. Someone said, let them. Courage is not the same as suicide, and we do not need anyone's permission to value our own lives. Admiral Thondar descended from the platform. His scaled face was angry. This is unacceptable. You have orders. You have duty. We have lives, Daehyun said. And those lives have value beyond what we can die for. You are destroying everything humans have built in the coalition, Thondar hissed. All the honor, all the respect, all the standing. Gone, because you are afraid. I am not afraid of dying, Daehyun said calmly. I am afraid of teaching our children that their deaths matter more than their lives. I am afraid of a future where every young human thinks suicide missions are the highest calling. I am afraid of waking up in a galaxy where human blood is the cheapest currency. He turned back to the soldiers. You want to be like me? This is me. Not the legend. Not the hero. Just a man who is tired of watching young people die trying to prove they deserve to exist. Daehyun began removing items from his belt. His communicator, his identification, his medals, earned over 15 years of service. He set them on the floor, one by one. I am resigning from coalition service. I will not fight in a military that values human lives less than others. I will not be the example that leads more young humans to their deaths. He looked at Jiwoo. And I hope you will not either. The deployment bay was silent except for the soft clink of metal as Daehyun placed his last medal on the floor. You are a coward, Thondar said. A disgrace. Maybe. Daehyun agreed. But I am a living coward, and I would rather be that than a convenient corpse. He turned and walked toward the exit. With each step, he felt lighter. The weight of expectation, of legend, of being the symbol everyone needed, it all fell away. He was just Dae-hyun again. Just a man. It felt good. Behind him, the soldiers stood frozen. They looked at each other, at their weapons, at the exit where Dae-hyun was leaving. Ji-woo was the first to move. He reached up and slowly removed his helmet. His young face was pale but determined. He set the helmet down and began removing his armor. "What are you doing?" Bo-ram asked. "I am 19 years old," Ji-woo said quietly. "I want to live to be 20. Young-mi removed her helmet too. Then another soldier. Then another. Within minutes, 63 human soldiers were stripping off their armor. They piled weapons and gear in the center of the bay. When they were done, they stood in simple clothes, looking suddenly very young and very human. Admiral Thondar watched in horror as his assault force dissolved. "This is mutiny. This is betrayal. This is us choosing life," Young-mi said. "If you want human soldiers, you will treat us like people. Not weapons. Not expendable forces. People." Tae-min stepped forward from the technical crew. He had been waiting for this moment. "I speak for the technical division. We support the combat personnel. No human will participate in operations that treat our lives as less valuable than others." More humans stepped forward. Engineers. Medics. Support staff. The message spread through the ship. Within an hour, every human on the Eternal Aegis had stood down. Hana watched from the entrance to the bay. Tears ran down her face. Not from sadness, from relief, from hope, from pride in what Dae-hyun had just done. He had not led them into glory. He had led them into dignity. And that was worth more than any legend. The news spread across coalition space like fire. Within hours, every species knew. The humans had refused orders. The legendary Dae-hyun had resigned. Operation Last Light was delayed indefinitely. Reactions were immediate and divided. Many species were outraged. The Kelid High Command issued a statement calling humans unreliable. The Vrin Council questioned whether humanity deserved its place in the coalition. Social networks buzzed with anger. Humans had seemed so brave, so willing. Now they revealed themselves as cowards. But some voices were different. A young Corvan officer named Velsik posted a message that went viral. "I just learned that human casualty rates are 4 times higher than any other species. We called them brave. We should have called them exploited. The shame is ours, not theirs." A Felid medical officer released data showing injury rates, trauma disorders, and medication usage among human military personnel compared to other species. The numbers were devastating. Humans were breaking under strain that would have gotten soldiers of any other species pulled from duty. And slowly, very slowly, some coalition members began to feel something they had not felt before. Shame. Dae-hyun returned to Earth within a week. He said no goodbyes to coalition officers. He simply left, taking a transport to the nearest human colony, and then home. He wanted to disappear. To be forgotten, to stop being a symbol. But the galaxy would not let him go so easily. Angry messages flooded human networks. Some humans called him a traitor. He had destroyed humanity's reputation, they said. He had thrown away 15 years of earned respect. He had made them all look weak. Other humans called him a hero. He had spoken truth, they said. He had saved lives. He had shown that human dignity mattered more than alien approval. The human community split down the middle. Dae-hyun ignored all of it. He found a small apartment in a colony on the edge of human space. He took a job in construction. Physical work. Simple work. Work that did not require him to be legendary. For the first time in years, he slept without medication. He still had nightmares. But they were his nightmares now. Not the legend's burden. Just his own pain, which he could finally begin to process. Tae-min visited after a month. He found Dae-hyun on a construction site, helping to build housing for new colonists. "You look different," Tae-min said. Dae-hyun wiped sweat from his forehead. He had gained weight. His scars were fading under regeneration treatment he had finally accepted. His eyes looked clear. I feel different. Better. The galaxy is chaos because of you. Good. They sat together on steel beams, eating lunch, and watching the colony grow below them. Operation Last Light was cancelled, Taemin said. Admiral Thondar tried to recruit from other species. None would volunteer. Turns out, without humans willing to die, suicide missions become a lot less appealing to plan. Daehyun smiled slightly. What happened to the mission objective? They found another way. Better strategy. Better technology. No ground forces needed at all. It took 3 extra weeks of planning. Taemin paused. 63 human lives saved because they took time to think, instead of just throwing bodies at the problem. And the human soldiers? Most were discharged. Some requested transfer to scientific divisions or diplomatic corps. Ji-woo is back on Earth, enrolled in university. He wants to study xenobiology. Taemin laughed. He wrote you a letter. Thanked you for saving his life. Daehyun was quiet for a moment. I almost got him killed. Saving him was the least I could do. You did more than that. You changed how humans see themselves. Over the following months, more changes rippled through human society. Young people who had been planning military careers chose other paths. Scientists, artists, engineers, teachers. Humanity began to fill roles in the coalition beyond warrior, but the void swarm still threatened the galaxy. The war continued, and without human soldiers volunteering for the most dangerous missions, coalition forces struggled. Casualties among other species began to rise. Not to human levels, but noticeable. Suddenly, species that had grown comfortable with humans bearing the burden had to risk their own people. Some resented humans for this, but others began to understand what had been happening. The coalition had built its strategy around human willingness to die. That was not strength. That was exploitation. 6 months after Daehyun's resignation, a ship arrived at his colony. It carried Commander Velthar and a delegation of coalition officers. They requested a meeting. Daehyun almost refused. But Hana, who had joined him on the colony, convinced him to listen. They met in a simple conference room. No ceremony. No cameras. Just people talking. Velthar spoke first. His insect voice was different than Daehyun remembered. Quieter. Less certain. We have come to apologize. Daehyun said nothing. We used your people. We knew the casualty rates. We knew the psychological cost. We approved it because it was convenient. Because humans volunteered so readily. Velthar's wings fluttered, a sign of distress in his species. We convinced ourselves this was honor. It was exploitation. Yes. An avian officer named Kreeth spoke next. The war continues. We need help. But we come not to ask for soldiers. We come to ask for something harder. Forgiveness. And guidance. Guidance? We do not know how to fight the way you do. Not with drones. Not at a distance. We need to learn human tactics. Human adaptability. Human resilience. But not human sacrifice. Kreeth folded his wings. We need to learn to value life, the way you are teaching your people to value it now. Hana leaned forward. You want us to train your soldiers? No, said Velthar. We want to fight alongside you. True partnership. Joint command. Equal risk. Equal value placed on all lives, regardless of species. Daehyun studied them. Why should we believe you? You should not, Velthar admitted. Words are easy. We must prove our sincerity through actions. That is why we are here. To ask what actions would prove our change. For hours, they talked. Daehyun, Hana, and Taemin on one side. The coalition delegation on the other. They discussed new military structures, integrated command, mandatory mental health support for all species, casualty review boards with human representation, equal distribution of dangerous assignments. No more suicide missions, Daehyun said. Ever. for any species. If a mission cannot be completed without acceptable losses, we find another way. Agreed. Human lives are valued equally to all other coalition lives, explicitly, in writing, in practice. Agreed. And humans will not be asked to prove their worth. We have worth inherently. As people. That is non-negotiable. 1. Velthar was quiet for a moment. Then he did something Daehyun had never seen. Agreed. You have always had worth. We were simply too blind to see it without you bleeding for us. The meeting ended with tentative plans. A new integrated military division. Joint training programs. Cultural exchange. Real partnership. Not exploitation disguised as honor. After the delegation left, Hana found Daehyun standing alone, looking at the colony below. Do you trust them? She asked. No. But I trust that they are scared. Scared enough to change. The war is harder without human soldiers volunteering to die. Good. It should be hard. Maybe that will make them think twice before spending lives. He turned to her. What do you think? I think this is not the end. It is just the beginning. We will have to keep fighting, not against the swarm. Against the temptation to slip back into old patterns, against humans who want to return to being convenient heroes. Against coalition members who resent having to risk their own people. Sounds exhausting. It is. But it is the right kind of exhausting. Not fighting to prove we are worthy. Fighting to maintain that we already are. Over the following weeks, the first joint training programs began. Young soldiers from multiple species learned together. Human instructors taught tactics, adaptability, close quarters combat, but they also taught something else. The value of life. The importance of bringing everyone home. Jiwoo was among the instructors. At 20 years old, he was young for the role. But he understood something the others did not. He understood the seduction of glorious sacrifice. He had almost fallen for it. Now he taught younger humans and aliens alike to resist that seduction. Courage is not the same as suicide, he told his students. The bravest thing you can do is fight to live. Fight to bring your friends home. Fight to see tomorrow. Anyone can throw their life away. It takes real strength to protect it. Sun Hee, the counselor, expanded her programs across species lines. Other coalition species began to acknowledge their own military trauma. Kelid warriors, who had hidden their fear for decades. Vryn fighters who suffered nightmares. Corvan pilots who self-medicated. Trauma was not a human weakness. It was a universal response to horror. And acknowledging it was the first step to healing. Taemin worked with coalition engineers to develop better defensive technology. We relied on human bodies because it was easier than thinking, he said. Time to think harder. Admiral Thondar quietly retired. Some said he was forced out. Others said he left in shame. Either way, new leadership took over. Leadership that had learned an expensive lesson about the cost of convenience. Daehyun stayed on his colony. He did not rejoin the military. He did not want to. But he consulted sometimes, helping design training programs and strategic doctrines. He made sure every program emphasized one thing above all else. Every life matters. Human, alien, all lives. Not as tools, not as resources, as lives. 2 years passed. The war against the Void Swarm continued, but it was different now. Coalition forces fought with new strategies, new technology, and new understanding. Casualties across all species dropped by 40%, not because the fighting was less intense, but because commanders valued the lives under their command. Human soldiers still served in the military. But they served alongside others, not as convenient sacrifices. When dangerous missions arose, the risk was shared. When losses occurred, they were mourned equally, regardless of species. The change was not easy. Some humans resented losing their special status. Some aliens resented having to shoulder burdens they had grown comfortable avoiding. But slowly, painfully, the coalition became something closer to what it always claimed to be. A true partnership. Daehyun lived quietly on his colony. He worked construction most days. He helped train new integrated units sometimes. He went to therapy twice a week with Sun Hee, working through 15 years of trauma he had suppressed. The nightmares were less frequent now. The shaking in his hands had stopped. He was healing. One morning, he received a message. A shuttle would be arriving that afternoon. Passengers requested to meet with him. The message was signed by Ji-woo and 62 others. When the shuttle landed, Daehyun was surprised. He expected maybe a dozen visitors. Instead, 63 people emerged. All of them were the soldiers who had been prepared to deploy on Operation Last Light, the ones who had stood with him when he laid down his armor. They were different now. Some wore civilian clothes, others wore military uniforms, but different ones. Integrated coalition forces, not human-only units. All of them looked healthy, strong, alive. Ji-woo approached first. He was taller than Daehyun remembered, more confident. "We wanted to thank you," he said. "You saved your own lives," Daehyun replied. "I just showed you that you could. That was enough." They gathered in a common area on the colony. For hours, they talked. Each person shared what they had been doing. Youngmi was now a diplomat, negotiating trade agreements. Bo-ram was studying medicine. Another soldier was teaching human history at a coalition university. Some had stayed in the military. But they fought differently now. Smarter. With partners who valued them. With commanders who did not see them as expendable. "Do you ever regret it?" Youngmi asked. "Leaving? Giving up the legend?" Daehyun thought about it. "No. The legend was killing me. Killing all of us. I regret that it took me so long to see it." 10. "You were what we needed at the time," Ji-woo said. "Humanity needed someone to show we were strong. But then we needed someone to show we were worth more than our strength. You became what we needed both times." 19. "We won of Teen Heaventeen. 871, Ji-woo said. "I am not sure that is true, but I appreciate you saying it." As the sun set, they told stories. Not about battles or glory. About life. About the small moments that mattered. About waking up each day, glad to be alive. Before they left, they gave Daehyun a gift. It was a plaque. Simple, but carefully made. It read, "To the man who taught us that living with dignity is braver than dying for glory. Thank you for showing us we were always enough." Daehyun placed it on his wall. Not where his armor used to hang. In a different place. A better place. After they left, Hana found him looking at the plaque. "You changed the galaxy," she said. "No. I just stopped letting the galaxy use us. That is different." "Is it? Maybe not." He smiled slightly. "But it feels different." They walked together through the colony. It had grown in 2 years. More buildings. More people. More life. Children played in the streets. Families gathered for evening meals. It was ordinary and beautiful. "Do you miss it?" Hana asked. "The fighting? I miss the purpose. The clarity. Knowing exactly what I was supposed to do." Daehyun paused. "But I do not miss the cost. And I do not miss being a symbol instead of a person." "What will you do now?" "I do not know. Keep building things, I suppose. Actual things. Not legends, not reputations. Just buildings and bridges, and maybe a future where young humans do not think they need to die to matter." They reached the edge of the colony, where construction continued on new housing. Workers from 3 different species labored together, sharing techniques and jokes. This was what partnership looked like. Not sacrifice, not heroic gestures, just people working together because all of them had value. A few months later, another delegation arrived. This time it was larger. Representatives from every coalition species. They came with a request. "We want to build a memorial," said Velthar, who had remained in close contact with the human colony, "to honor those who were lost in the years before we understood what we were doing. Humans who died because we valued them less than we should have." Daehyun was uncomfortable with the idea. A memorial will not bring them back. No. But it will remind us. Remind future generations. So we never forget the cost of convenience. Velthar's wings fluttered. "We want you to help design it." "Why me?" "Because you knew them. Because you carry their names in your heart. Because you understand what we need to remember." Daehyun agreed, but only on conditions. The memorial would not glorify death. It would celebrate life. It would not praise sacrifice. It would mourn waste. It would not be a monument to human courage. It would be a reminder of systemic failure. They built it on Earth, in a place where everyone could see it. A simple structure, with names carved in stone. Every human who had died in coalition service. Not ranked by glory or heroism. Just names, people, lives that mattered. At the base, an inscription. They gave their lives before we taught them they could ask for more. We honor them by ensuring no one needs to prove their worth through death again. The dedication ceremony was quiet. No speeches about bravery. No calls to glory. Just acknowledgement of what had been lost and commitment to do better. Daehyun stood with survivors, with families, with the 63 soldiers from Operation Last Light. They were not the only ones there. Veterans from all species attended, all of them understanding now what they had participated in, knowingly or not. When it was over, Jiwoo approached Daehyun one more time. "What do you want your legacy to be?" he asked. Daehyun thought about it. About the legend he had been. About the man he was now. "I do not want a legacy. I just want people to live. To know they are enough as they are. To understand that survival is not cowardice and that living is not less honorable than dying." He looked at the memorial. "If anything, I want to be remembered as the man who stopped. Who said no more. Who showed that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse." Years passed. The war against the Void Swarm eventually ended. Not because of heroic sacrifices, but because coalition forces learned to fight smarter. They developed better technology. They created better strategies. They valued every life in their ranks. When victory came, it was bittersweet. So many had been lost. But the losses were shared now. No one species carried the burden alone. Daehyun was old when the war ended. He had spent the decades building things, teaching things, helping heal things. He never wore armor again. He never returned to combat. He was content with that. On his last day, surrounded by friends and family in the colony he had helped build, someone asked him if he had any regrets. "One," he said quietly. "I regret that it took me so long to understand that I was worthy just by being human. Not by being strong. Not by being brave. Not by being willing to die. Just by being me. I wish I had learned that sooner." "But you learned it eventually," Hana said, holding his hand. "Yes, and I taught others. That is enough." After he died, they added his name to the memorial. Not as a hero. Not as a legend. Just as a person who had lived and mattered. Jiwoo, now old himself, visited the memorial often. He brought his grandchildren. He told them stories about Daehyun. Not stories about battles or glory. Stories about the day a man laid down his armor and taught humanity that living with dignity was braver than dying for applause. Was he a hero? The children asked. Jiwoo thought about it. About the legend Daehyun had been. "He was better than a hero," Jiwoo said finally. "He was honest. He showed us we did not need to be legends. We just needed to be enough. And we always were." The children looked at the memorial. At the thousands of names carved in stone. Lives that had been spent before the lesson was learned. Will we ever need to fight like that again? They asked. Maybe. The galaxy is dangerous. But if we do, we will fight differently. We will fight to protect life, not prove worth. We will fight knowing we are valuable before we ever pick up a weapon. That is what he taught us. The sun set over the memorial. Lights began to glow among the names, making them shine in the darkness. Each light was a reminder, a life, a person who had mattered. And at the base, the inscription remained clear. They gave their lives before we taught them they could ask for more. We honor them by ensuring no one needs to prove their worth through death again. It was not a perfect galaxy. It never would be. But it was better than it had been. And that was because one man had the courage to stop, to lay down his armor, to walk away from legend and back toward humanity. In the end, that was the greatest courage of all. Not fighting to the death, but choosing to live, and teaching others they could choose the same.